Y los pueblos del mundo, especialmente las mujeres, siguen pasando penurias a diario. Las mujeres, especialmente las campesinas y las indígenas, se llevan la peor parte de esta crisis. Nuestros objetivos para el seminario web de hoy son los siguientes: entender la actual crisis económica y política en el mundo y sus impactos en las comunidades rurales de América Latina y la región Asia-Pacífico. 2. Conocer los problemas cotidianos y las luchas por la tierra y los medios de vida de las mujeres rurales y campesinas de estas regiones. 3. Compartir experiencias sobre cómo las mujeres están luchando para defender sus comunidades, luchar por sus medidas de vida y cambiar sus condiciones. 4. Discutir del papel de la IWA en cómo vincular estas luchas en la lucha global contra los ataques fascistas, las políticas neoliberales y el saqueo imperialista. El programa que hemos preparado pretende alcanzar estos objetivos. Estamos muy emocionadas de tener con nosotros hoy a 4 mujeres muy increíbles, estimadas y valientes, que compartirán sus historias de resistencia y lucha como defensoras y activistas en defensa de los derechos y el sustento de las mujeres rurales y campesinas. Antes de entrar en la mesa redonda, nuestra secretaria general, Dona Denina, presentará brevemente la situación política y, a continuación, cada una de las panelistas hará una breve presentación de la situación en su región y en su país de origen. Nuestra primera ponente es Vicenta Jiménez de Guatemala, Vicenta Jerónimo de Guatemala, Yuri Campo de Colombia, Chatu Sewandi de Sri Lanka y Katy Estavillo de Filipinas. Haremos una breve pausa cultural después de las 2 primeras ponentes y luego reanudaremos las presentaciones seguidas de una sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Para concluir, resumiremos nuestros llamamientos a la acción y haremos una foto de grupo. ¿Qué les parece? ¿Hay alguna pregunta de nuestros participantes ahora? Ok, sin más preámbulos, vamos a escuchar a Donna con un breve situador político. Donna?
Hello, sorry, I'm gonna pause you too. We are troubleshooting um, interpretation.
Thank you so much. Just checking in with our tech team. How is it going with problem solving our Bahasa translation? Okay, it looks like some audio problems with our Bahasa interpreter. Let me know if we need a little bit more time so that we ensure that our participants who are from Indonesia can also participate. It looks like they're still troubleshooting. It looks like it's poor sound quality, so the audio of the Bahasa channel is not quite working. We apologize for the inconvenience and the delay. Let me know if I should go ahead and keep going or take a pause.
Yeah, we're good now. You can go.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, thank you again for the introduction of our program, our objectives. Before we introduce our speakers, I will share a brief presentation on the global situation so we can put into context what we're seeing develop in the world today. We can essentially deduce all of the world's contradictions into two main camps. And I think we all are very much aware of this, the ruling elite versus everyone else, the workers, the peasants, indigenous people. How the world functions revolves around this basic contradiction. We know this basic contradiction has many manifestations, and in the end, the world situation is dire and we need to change it. We can go to the next slide. The world is in crisis. Prices are going up, the economies are slowing down, and tensions between countries because of the aggressive tariff policies, mainly due to Donald Trump's recent waging of the tariff war, is causing havoc around the world. The economic system, as we know it, is failing the people of the world, which is imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism that has subjected the people to the worst forms of exploitation and oppression. Competition between the world's biggest economies has led to two world wars, with heightening tensions brewing for a potential third. Billions of people continue to suffer. Acute hunger is on the rise again, affecting 343 million people in 74 different countries. Up to 1.9 million people are estimated to be on the brink of famine, primarily in Gaza and Sudan, but also pockets of populations in South Sudan, Haiti, and Mali. People mainly from the global south continue to suffer, especially women who are forced to rely on selling their labor at increasingly devalued rates amidst the massive crisis of overproduction and devouring of super profits by the elite few, like the billionaire Donald Trump, now in his second term as president of the United States. Trump's imposition of tariffs to pursue his America's First trade policy on all foreign imports has not only created a tariff war, especially with China, but has also had major impacts on the working people of the world. These bullying tactics create a tariff war are not a sign of strength, but of deep desperation to try to revive a prolonged period of stagnation of the global economy. The US is still the largest economy in the world and uses its domination to arm twist other capitalist countries to bow down to its hegemony, while the poorer countries, especially in the developing countries and semi-colonies, give up their wealth and resources to imperialist domination and control. And to maintain such hegemony, the US displays its military might and uses aggressive defense strategies for its proxy wars, which are spawning an ever-escalating crisis around the world. US imperialism, together with its Western imperialist allies, has destabilized entire regions and countries, creating a situation for more violence and war, and women bear the brunt of this crisis.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Donna. You're going a bit fast for interpretation.
Okay.
Could you slow down a bit? Thank you.
Yes, yes. If we can go to the next slide. In today's global geopolitical situation, three fronts of US-led war have emerged, which is aimed at preserving sole US hegemony. The US-Western alliance, including NATO, for Eastern Europe against Russia, the US-Israel Gulf Turkish alliance against Iran, and an iron web of alliances in the Pacific, including the Australia, UK, US alliance, or AUKUS, the Japan, South Korea, US alliance, or JAUKUS, and the Japan, Philippines, US alliance, or JAFIS. Also the Japan, Australia, and India and US alliance, also known as the Quad, all of which are created to isolate China and also the DPRK, or the Democratic Republic, People's Republic of Korea. At the same time, US-led war and aggression also operates all over Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. War means violence, and all forms of violence are at an all-time high militarily, politically, and including gender-based violence. It is estimated that in 2024, 1 in 8 people in the world experienced conflict and war. In countries that held elections, there was a 63% increase in conflict compared to those countries that did not hold elections. And this was very much true for the recent elections that just happened in the Philippines earlier this month. 70% of women in fragile and conflict-affected contexts experience sexual and gender-based violence, which is often used as a tactic of war against women. We can go to the next slide. As war and conflict rages on in every corner of the globe, governments pour billions and billions of dollars into military spending to fight these wars, while the people of the world go hungry. With inflation at an all-time high since World War II, nearly 1 in 3 people, or 2.7 billion people, simply cannot afford to eat regularly. In the poorest countries worldwide, working people have shelled out 20 to 30% more food in the past 3 years alone. Hunger is on the rise at a time when we're producing far more than we'll ever need. Ironically, those who grow and produce food for the world are the ones who are the most hungry, especially food producers from the global south. Famines have been a common occurrence all throughout history and are still a huge problem. Just in the last couple of centuries, over 100 million people died from famines across the globe. In 2025, there are several regions that are either already experiencing famine or on the verge of descending into one in places like East Africa, Syria, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Myanmar, and more. And because of the ongoing blockade and outright destruction of Gaza, the people of Palestine have suffered from catastrophic famine due to Israel's deliberate act of ecocide, exacerbating their suffering and depriving them of critical resources for survival. The root of all of this, imperialist plunder and colonialism, domestic land monopolies, and decades of neoliberalism pushed forward by the world's ruling elite. And at the top is the world's number one enemy, US imperialism. Next slide, please.
Donna, we're gonna pause for a second so interpretation can catch up.
Yes.
Yeah, just hold for a moment.
I'll try to go a little bit slower this time. Rich countries have drained more than $152 trillion in wealth from the global south. Rich countries from the global north rely on the resource extraction of raw materials and natural resources and on their exploited labor power. Extraction from Asia and Africa was used to pay for infrastructure of Europe and North America, and the costs to the people of the South were catastrophic. Genocide, dispossession, famine, and mass impoverishment. I think you all get the picture. The current crisis is grim, and the rural communities, especially the women, bear the brunt of this crisis. Today, we will hear from 4 women, each painting a picture of their daily life from their respective region and country, their challenges, their fights for survival, and their courage to change their situation. We hope you find inspiration in their stories, and our hope is that we come out today with renewed vigor to link arms together, take up their fights as our own, because when we as women can transform our rage, anger, and frustration and come together in solidarity, we can turn into a mighty political force that can create the kind of change we hope to see in the world. where no woman has to suffer at the hands of her oppressor. No child has to go hungry, and our communities can thrive in peace. So that is all for my presentation, and I will go ahead and pass it back to Marie.
Gracias, Donna. Thanks, Donna. Sí, esperamos que os haya servido para hacerse una idea de lo que está ocurriendo en el mundo. Tengo el honor de presentar a nuestra primera oradora. Tuvimos el privilegio de escucharla durante la tercera Asamblea Internacional de la IWA el año pasado en Malasia. Vicenta Jerónimo Jiménez es una defensora guatemalteca de derechos humanos indígenas y miembro del Comité Ejecutivo de CODECA, Comité de Desarrollo Campesino. Con sus 200,000 miembros en 3,000 comunidades de todo Guatemala, CODECA es una fuerza a la que enfrentarse. Vicenta y su familia se vieron obligados a huir el vecino México en 1982 a causa de la guerra civil, cuando ella solo tenía 10 años. En 1993, junto con otras mujeres indígenas exiladas, fundó la Asociación Mujeres Madre Tierra, organización en la que sigue participando activamente y que agrupa a mujeres indígenas que han vivido en exilio. Gracias, Vicenta, de hablar con nosotros.
I think we're going to take a pause before we have Vicenta speak and review the objectives one more time. And I believe, Ari, you will help support in reviewing those objectives again. I can also just read it out loud here, if that's helpful. I just need a confirmation from our tech team. Okay, so I'll just review the objectives. We have 4. For those of you who are just joining us, our first objective is to understand the current economic and political crisis in the world and its impacts on rural communities in Latin America and the Asia Pacific region. Number 2 is to learn about the daily issues and struggles for land and livelihood by rural and peasant women in these regions. Number 3 is to share experiences on how women are fighting back to defend their communities, fight for their livelihoods, and change their conditions. And number 4 is to discuss the role of IWA in how to link these struggles together in the global fight against these fascist attacks, neoliberal policies, and imperialist plunder. And we're allowing for our interpreters to restate these objectives in the respective language for those who may have missed it. Let me know if we are able to go ahead and start with Vicenta's presentation. Okay. Vicenta, are you ready?
Sí, 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 gracias. Sí, buenos días a todas las hermanas que están presentes en este momento. Soy Vicenta Jerónimo Jiménez del Movimiento Sociopolítica Plurinacional CODECA desde Guatemala. Pues es un gusto de poder compartir con ustedes las luchas de las mujeres desde desde los territorios en donde se vive fuertemente varios desafíos, ¿verdad? En este caso, nosotros como movimiento sociopolítica, social, buscamos eh, el busque de los derechos de las mujeres desde el espacio donde las mujeres están, ¿verdad? Mayormente en Guatemala existen territorios donde nunca ha habido una política del Estado. Es donde existe también el alto índice de desconocimiento de los derechos de las mujeres, el desconocimiento de las participaciones de mujeres, el desconocimiento, el acceso a la educación y salud, ¿verdad? Entonces, una lucha que traemos como movimiento sociopolítico desde los territorios con la red de mujeres plurinacional, ¿verdad? En busca de defensa de los derechos. Tenemos muchos conocidos sobre el tema de la violencia y los asesinatos que han sufrido sus líderes desde los territorios, ¿verdad? El por levantar voces, por organizar, por exigir derechos, por defender a la madre tierra, por defender los derechos, por defender, ahí sí que exigir la educación, exigir la salud de las mujeres. Por lo mismo han sido, ahí sí que varios de sus dirigentes asesinados. También nos encontramos con los obstáculos para que las mujeres participen en las tomas de decisiones políticas y en la sociedad en general, ¿verdad? En Guatemala, pues nunca se ha cedido esa participación de las mujeres. Siempre existe esa desigualdad que, que la mujer no pueda. Mayormente las mujeres indígenas han sufrido fuertemente esa rechaza del sistema capitalista, que no pueden hacer nada desde la legislación, desde un espacio de toma de decisiones. Eso han enfrentado las mujeres, ahí sí que desde los territorios. Hay muchos de nuestras compañeras que han hecho esfuerzos, ¿verdad? De poder eh, organizarse, levantar sus voces, proponer y tomar decisiones, hacer parte de un comité o un puesto de liderazgo. o también en las tomas de decisiones públicas, ¿verdad? Pero nos hemos encontrado con fuertemente el obstáculo de desigualdad. También las mujeres indígenas mayor enfrentan la discriminación desde la discriminación social desde el territorio, desde las áreas rurales, la falta de acceso de salud, la falta de justicia. Estamos en este momento desde los territorios preocupantes, ¿verdad? Porque no hemos visto ninguna mejoría. Sigue siendo los pueblos abandonados, siguen haciendo a las mujeres abandonadas, la educación, la salud, sigue siendo ahí sí que los hospitales abandonados sin poder responder al pueblo de Guatemala. Mayormente las mujeres son las que sufrimos más, ¿verdad? Porque somos los que velamos por la familia. También si hablamos de la justicia, acceso a justicia a las mujeres en este momento es tan difícil porque no hay una justicia, los que imparten justicia están cooptados, están a la par ahí sí que del sistema capitalista, del neoliberal, el imperialismo ha enraizado bastante en todas las instituciones del Estado. Entonces, no hay acceso a justicia con una transparencia a las mujeres donde puedan denunciar la violencia, la discriminación. No se puede porque está a la par de la minoría que ejercen el poder supuestamente en Guatemala. Es lamentable la situación. La violencia hacia los asesinatos a las mujeres en CODECA y fuera de CODECA también han sido víctimas de ataques y asesinatos de sus líderes. Pero ¿qué ha pasado? Esos asesinatos se han quedado en una impunidad, ¿verdad? No se ha podido hacer justicia a nuestros mártires, ¿verdad? Que han venido sus luchas en defensa de los territorios, en defensa de la tierra, en defensa del agua, en defensa de los derechos, en defensa de todos los recursos naturales. A través de eso se ha desatado un asesinato fuertemente y nunca no hay una justicia. Es lamentable hablar de, ahí sí que de la participación de las mujeres, o es lamentable hablar de una justicia en Guatemala. También la falta de participación en la política pública no nos ha permitido, ¿verdad?, de poder dar ese espacio. Nosotros como movimiento hemos ejercido nuestros derechos como ciudadanos, ¿verdad? Y nos hemos, ahí sí que postulados como candidatos. Yo fui 4 años como diputado desde el Congreso por el Movimiento para la Liberación de los Pueblos y nuestra compañera Telma Cabrera, que es una mujer maya mam indígena, también como candidata presidencial. Viene el sistema, no lo inscriba a ella porque para sacarla de la jugada. Y totalmente en este año 2023 lograron sus objetivos de poder anular a nuestro instrumento político, Movimiento para la Liberación de los Pueblos. Es donde nos damos cuenta que para nosotras las mujeres, desde el campo, desde los territorios, desde las áreas rurales urbanos como campesinos, no tenemos acceso para poder participar en la política pública. Es totalmente, encontramos esas barreras para participar, ¿verdad? Ocupar puestos de liderazgos. También hemos luchado más así, hemos encontrado ahí sí que eso desde las comunidades, ¿verdad? Pero ya públicamente ante el sistema nos ha sido rechazado. La discriminación y la desigualdad, las mujeres indígenas también enfrentan la discriminación y la desigualdad en la educación, salud y justicia. Creemos que en este momento no tenemos un Estado que nos responde como pueblos originarios, como pueblos sí que milenarios, sino que hoy hay un sistema del Estado de Guatemala que solo responde a la minoría que han hecho variedades de corrupciones en el país y nunca son juzgados por las leyes. Las leyes hoy están a favor de los corruptos, a favor de los que roban el arca del Estado, menos a favor del campesina, menos a favor de las mujeres mayas desde las áreas rurales. Eso ya vemos que ya no existe. Por lo mismo, nosotros como movimiento sociopolítico plurinacional CODECA con la red de mujeres plurinacional Tejiendo el Buen Vivir, también estamos trabajando también nuestra propuesta, porque no podemos quedarnos ante este sistema, sino también tenemos que proponernos como mujeres. Los despojos de tierra desde los territorios. Las mujeres también han sido afectados en eso porque han sido víctimas de despojos de sus tierras y recursos humanos. Las tierras ancestrales, las tierras de los abuelos, abuelas que tenían de un principio, ahí se han quedado viviendo la, la, la generación. Pero ¿qué ha pasado en este momento? Porque el gran terrateniente, la expansión de municultivas, se tiene que expandir en Guatemala. Entonces, lo que hacen es despojar de las tierras ancestrales. Es lamentable y empieza una persecución fuerte, fuerte en contra de las mujeres, en contra del campesino, ¿verdad? Y no hay ninguna ley que le pueda a favorecerlo, ¿verdad? Sino que las leyes ya están cooptados en manos de corruptos, en manos de la oligarquía, ¿verdad? Nosotras como mujeres hemos venido luchando y hemos sufrido todos esos desastres que hay en nuestro país. Lamentablemente, como mujeres indígenas mayas, eh, hemos sido excluidos del sistema, hemos sido despojados desde nuestros territorios. Hablamos también en el tema de derecho laboral. Las oportunidades para las mujeres no existen. Eh, el salario es un salario miserio, ¿verdad? Es la desigualdad, el salarial. Eh, también víctimas de acoso sexual. Entonces, se ha habido una, de verdad, lamentable, porque entonces las mujeres no pueden hacer nada. Entonces las mujeres no pueden ir a pedir trabajo en ninguna fábrica porque si va, entonces tiene que ser a cambio de acosos sexuales y un salario eh, salariado, ¿verdad? Y
Visa,
siempre
vi-
existe esa versión del mismo sistema capitalista neoliberal que las mujeres no pueden hacer nada, que las mujeres no saben hacer nada. La discriminación, el racismo desde los indumentarios mayas, ¿verdad? Ah, porque es una mujer que anda con su indumentaria, pues no se le puede dar trabajo. Ah, que es una mujer que no puede hablar el español o
Vicenta,
castellano,
Vicenta, por
por lo mismo
favor.
no se le puede dar trabajo. Ha habido mucho esa discriminación y ese racismo en el tema de los idiomas, en el tema de los indumentarios mayas, ¿verdad? Y nosotras hemos seguido exigiendo esos derechos, ¿verdad?
Vicenta, por favor.
También existen
Vicenta,
esas barreras culturales, sociales. Las mujeres, sí,
Vicenta,
sí,
por favor, ¿podrías terminar?
ya
Porque el
voy
tiempo.
terminando. Las
Gracias.
mujeres en el movimiento sociopolítico plurinacional encabezamos las luchas de calle, las luchas en las diferentes acciones que hacemos. Somos los que hemos empezado en este momento a basarlos. Estos desafíos requieren una respuesta integral que incluye así que protección y los derechos humanos de las mujeres y la promoción de la igualdad de derechos, igualdad de género y la lucha contra la discriminación y la violencia. Gracias.
Gracias, Vicenta. Yo, sí, gracias, Vicenta. Yo voy a hablar en español un poco para. Entonces la intérprete va a cambiar de canal. Entonces, gracias, Vicenta. Eh, Perdón. Sí, recientemente yo tuve el honor de asistir al encuentro de mujeres de la red de mujeres de CODECA. Fue en Mazatenango, en Guatemala, y fue una experiencia increíble a la que asistieron más de 200 mujeres que viajaron de todo el país para reunirse y compartir sus experiencias y su programa de acción. Luchan por un cambio estructural y se aseguran de que las mujeres sean parte integrante del mismo. Ahora, nuestra siguiente ponente viene de Colombia, Judy Campo, pero creo que Judy tiene dificultades para entrar en nuestro webinario, entonces tal vez que vamos a hacer un cambio de orden de ponentes, ¿no es pas?
Marie, she's here, I think.
Oh, she's here. Okay,
You might
great.
not have audio, so yeah, we should go to the next one.
Entonces vamos a pasar a la próxima ponente y vamos a entender Judy después para darnos un poco de tiempo a arreglar algunas cosas técnicas. So, um, so the next panelist is Chatu, and I think Donna is going to be introducing her. Donna?
Okay, thanks, Marie. So we'll go ahead with our program and start with Chatu. Chatu is from Sri Lanka. She's an attorney at law and works as a consultant for the Vikalpani National Women's Federation and as a program manager at Law and Society Trust. Her research interest is on women farmers, agroecology, and food security, and also works with the Asian Rural Women's Coalition, a member organization of IWA. I'm very honored to introduce her, so please welcome Chatu.
Thank you very much for your introduction on me, and it's really pleasure to meet you all. Can you share my presentation?
Yes, it should just be the next slide, Edith.
Okay, so until my presentation is going to be shared, I will start. I think, okay, so as you all know, and as Donna correctly explained you, so we are in a lot of crisis situations as South Asians, and also we are facing similar situation because of the global economic and also human right, and how we define the rights of the people, particularly on that. So I think like I will quite focus on Sri Lankan situations once I explain the evidences. So next slide, please. So yeah, so I want to share with you all that Sri Lanka is facing a huge economic crisis. So which was remarkably, we felt it remarkably in 2022. So this situation is quite similar to Pakistan and also Bangladesh, but we experience it in a worst way. So I will explain a bit in my presentation. I will explain the reasons for this economic crisis that we are facing right now and how it impact on women's and their daily livelihood, and also what we have been doing for resistance and what kind of support that we expect from you all as women. So like this economic crisis was not just a crisis which ad hoc one. It is a result of the liberal economic adjustment which was introduced by the World Bank and also IMF and this international finance institutions from 1970s and 80s. So by 2022, we are a country like taking a lot of loans in an unsustainable way. So we experience the result of those unsustainable economic decisions. Okay, I will make it a little bit slow. And okay, so as a result of this, you can see in the first chart, by 2022, we were a debt country which we own public debt of 80 billions in USD. And from this 80 billion, in the right side, you can see 34.8 billion is the debt we got from other countries and also creditors of the outside of the countries. So then by 2022, like the impact of the COVID-19, we are a country which we depend on the foreign remittance and also tourism. So we were not able to pay any debt. So we announced as a bankrupt country where we are not able to pay debt anymore. So as a result of that, a lot of changes happen in Sri Lanka. Some are the previous president declared our country is going to be an organic agriculture country because we didn't have enough money to buy chemical fertilizer, which is really foolish decision, and it happened in an one night. Apart from that, we had to stay days for in queues to take fuel and also take other necessary and essential goods. Apart from that, we had nights where the electricity is totally cut off. Then our food price were increased by 95%. It means double. So people were not able to bear it anymore and they started to resist. Then next slide, please. Then Sri Lankan government went to the IMF seeking for the support. Then they proposed us, they will give us around 2.2 billions USD as an installment basis, but they gave us conditions which restructure our economy. It included, we have a kind of like a social security systems in local which benefit the poorest in this country. They asked us to restructure it, and they asked us to restructure our tax system, which include 80% of increasement of VAT. It means for each essential goods that we purchase, and privatization of the underperforming government or owned agencies. And also they gave us an economic target to reach 15% of GDP by 2025. This is really hard for us because what they propose to the government is increase the taxation, including VAT. So this is really hard for the people, the poorest, and also the middle class people in the country. Next slide, please. So I will explain a bit like how this directly impact on the women. So as an example, the social security system, we had a social security system called Samurdhi, and it was converted into Aswasuma, where many were left behind. And also there are a lot of there are a lot of issues in the process, including many women and also adult women were directly excluded. And also because of the convert into the organic agriculture, the fertilizer was not received to the women farmers, and it was received as a subsidy. It means government gave it a under price reduction. Then this was totally removed in one night. Then women farmers were helpless because the agriculture is the only thing that they were depend on, and they wanted a particular time period to practice agroecology and the knowledge. Previous slide, please. And also it impacted on the women's land rights because under this, what World Bank and other financial institutes continuously told us to follow to give the private land ownership and make the lands as a sellable lands. Then government launched a program called Urumaya, where the government land which have been given to the community under special grant with restriction, they ask government, so the government start to give private ownership for the people. So in one hand, there is an economy that people are not able to earn, then the only option is for them to sell those land to the companies and other investors. What happened was, in this process, because of the gender discriminatory land laws, women were not allowed to own the land and own the land. So then in this process, women were excluded. And also the impact of the climate change, it is really worsened situation since women don't allow own the land. They have less access to the compensation and other subsidies given by the agrarian department and other institutions by the government. And also access to the credit was also problem for the women in Sri Lanka, particularly the rural women. Since they don't own lands, they have very limited access to the formal finance uh, institutions like banks. So what they do is like they go to informal finance institutions like microfinance companies, and they had to pay highest interest. Sometimes it's more than 100%. So as a result of that, by 2020 to 2.4 million women are in debt, and it's sad to say 200 women have suicide because they can't bear this debt. And also impact of the plantation sector. We have women who doesn't own land in the plantation sector. In their lifetime they are working there, so this economic crisis is so hard for them because they are taking very less uh, wages, like 4 USD per one day, something like that. And also this impact on the government sector, women in government sector, particularly the Trump tariffs condition, because um, because uh, because of the Trump tariff condition, the employers forwarded this is going to forward this tax in and also this burden to the workers. So they have to work overtime without any other overtime payment, and their wages are getting cut. And also and also the government is also taking this as a issue of the producers or employers, and not exclude the impact on the employees. And this economic crisis and everything impact directly on the unpaid care workers, where they have to move for the time poverty. And also the period poverty, because there is a huge tax on the sanitary items. Then rural women are not afford this sanitary item, which impact on their health. Next slide, please. Okay, can you give me 2 minutes, Donna?
Yes.
Okay. See, these are kind of like things that we are doing for resistance. So the women of the microfinance issue, the victims of the microfinance issue, they are continually protesting against the laws, and also they are demanding new laws to regulate the microfinance companies and give kind of a relief to the rural women. And apart from that, we intervene as a collective, women's collective. We have organized and intervened for the policy influence, including providing budget suggestions to consider women's efforts, and also how this economic impact particularly impact on women's. So next slide. Apart from that, our women produce and practice alternatives. They practice agroecology, and also they talk about the seed rights. They conduct campaign to aware the other people on this economic crisis, and how government should consider particularly the women's effort and how it impact on the women. Next slide, please. These are kind of like a markets led by women, and they have their own saving societies where they give alternatives for the microfinance debt tap, and also they encourage their production at the household, and they are developing successful models that they are promoting what they are doing in the ground. Next slide, please. So what kind of like a support sorry, my slides are finished. So kind of support that we expect is like support the campaign that are conducted in terms of the depth, justice, and also economic transformation. There we are emphasizing and echo the women's perspectives should be considered, and we have some collectives called Yukti, where we formulated to talk about these concerns. And apart from that, sharing our stories and sharing our learnings with you is a very pleasure as solidarity aspect. And apart from that, we know there are some policy, global level policy recommendation and policy discussions are going on, such as in terms of tax and in terms of economic transformations. So we need our realities, our stories to be there as empirical evidence to show like how these neoliberal economic policies has adversely impact on us. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for taking a few minutes more.
Thank you so much, Chatu. Very informative presentation. As you can see, the desperation of the communities in Sri Lanka, which cuts across many countries in South Asia that are experiencing the same thing with high debt, very minimal wages, similar to what was shared by Vicenta. And the outrageous, tax on sanitary items for the women is just unbelievable. I can't believe that. But also, thank you also for sharing the alternative ways that women have found themselves to sustain their livelihood amidst all of the challenges because of these neoliberal policies. So thank you again. We will now just take a short break. I think, to give our translators a chance to also, catch their breath. This is a time for everyone to stretch, rest your eyes a bit, but keep your ears to your computer because we will share a virtual choir performance during this break. This was a long distance collaboration between activists and faith leaders, musicians in honor of the late human rights defender from the Philippines, Zara Alvarez. She worked as a paralegal aide to poor farm worker leaders and other members of progressive and pro-people organizations. However, she was red tagged by the previous Philippine President Duterte administration, and she was unfortunately martyred in August 2020, where she left behind a young daughter. Her courage inspired singer-songwriter Sienna Christie from Oregon in the United States to write this song, which is called Name on a List, and we hope you enjoy.
Tuloy ang laban, we fight for a day when no one must fight anymore to be safe. And Zara, we're frightened, but we won't give up, 'cause we fight in your name, and we never will stop. Zara Alvarez had short black hair and eyes that reflected the world. Zara Alvarez had faith in God and a brave-hearted 10-year-old girl. Zara had a little black book that lay closed at the edge of her desk, when she kept track of friends who'd been shot in their homes. 88 names on her list. One of Zara's good friends was a man who kept pictures in frames of his wife. 20 years of true love laid to rest in a hospital bed, 'cause the cost of those pills was too high. So we marched in the streets, screaming her name, never knowing how much he'd be missed. And Zara's brave girl asked Mama what happened, why his uncle's name on your list. She said, Tuloy ang laban, we fight for a day when we won't have to fight once was in prison, chained on a cold concrete floor, all for teaching the farmers their rights and for telling Duterte to care for his poor. But she made a new friend in the cell next to hers, a boy with the scar on his wrist. He confessed to her, Zara, I'm scared of becoming a name on a list. She said to Lo young Laban, we fight for a day when you won't have to fight anymore to be safe. And we're both of us frightened, but don't you give up, I'll be fighting for you, and I never will stop. Zara Alvarez was walking home when gunshots rang out in the street. As rain fell around her, police workers covered her up with a clear plastic sheet. And somewhere tonight, a brave young girl imagines her mom's goodnight kiss. And the world will remember her mother as so much more than the 89th name on a list. Zara, we're frightened, but we won't give up, 'cause we fight in your name, and we never will stop. Through Roy and Laban, we fight for a day when no one must fight anymore to be safe. And God knows we're frightened, but we won't give up, 'cause we fight in the names on your list, and we never will stop. Zara Alvarez had short black hair, eyes that reflected the world.
We hope you enjoyed that cultural presentation. Mabuhay, Zara Alvarez, and for all the martyrs who put their lives on the line every day to defend the peasants, defend their ancestral lands. This song goes out to all of those who, those brave warriors who risk their lives every day in defense of the people. So long live Zara Alvarez, and long live all of our martyrs. We'll continue to take a few more minutes break to regroup. So hang tight, and we'll be back in just a few moments. Okay, I'd like to pass it back on to my co-MC Marie to introduce our next speaker.
Gracias, Donna. Sí, yo soy muy contenta de presentar Judy Campo. Judy es una líder campesina del municipio de Cajibio, Cauca, que hace parte del movimiento Vida y Tierra del CNA, del Consejo Nacional de Pueblos Indígenas en Colombia. Ha estado involucrado en la construcción de la territorialidad campesina desde 2006, con un fuerte enfoque en la promoción de las organizaciones de mujeres para defender sus derechos, eliminar la violencia de género, defender sus tierras, promover la soberanía alimentaria y promover las economías propias de las mujeres. Por favor, Judy, con mucho gusto, somos muy contentas y honoradas de tenerte con nosotros. Gracias.
Hola, muy buenos días. ¿Sí me pueden escuchar? Que no estoy segura que me estén escuchando.
Si podrías hablar un poco más fuerte. No te entendimos muy bien.
Sí, por ahí ¿sí me escuchan bien?
Sí, es mejor.
Vale. Bueno, muchísimas gracias por el espacio que nos brindan y para nosotras como mujeres campesinas acá en Colombia, del departamento del Cauca, mujeres que estamos organizadas en el Coordinador Nacional Agrario, pues nos alegra muchísimo poder estar en este espacio porque son espacios que nos permiten visibilizar pues estas apuestas que tenemos, estos desafíos, estas luchas que las mujeres forjamos cada día. En este sentido, pues quisiera aprovechar estos minutos que nos han brindado para compartir con ustedes las experiencias de lucha que las mujeres campesinas acá en nuestro territorio, en Colombia, pues venimos dando, ¿no? Decir que el desafío por la vida digna de las mujeres, pues cada vez es más urgente, ¿no? Ya que estamos en un mundo marcado profundamente por el avance del cambio climático, por las guerras, la crisis energética que hay, la crisis del hambre, las múltiples formas de injusticia social, pues nos ha ido llevando a que las mujeres tengamos muchos desafíos en nuestros territorios. En este sentido, las mujeres pues hemos venido luchando por mantener un pensamiento colectivo, una organización comunitaria, de juntarnos para pensarnos el territorio, para pensarnos cuál es el papel central que tenemos las mujeres, el rol que jugamos en nuestra familia, en nuestra comunidad, pero principalmente empezar por autorreconocernos como mujeres campesinas que hemos hecho unos aportes muy importantes a la construcción de nuestras familias, a la construcción de nuestra sociedad, y que más importante que ese papel que jugamos las mujeres pues sea reconocido por la comunidad, pero también reconocido por las distintas instituciones, por el Estado, por los gobiernos, que pues que prácticamente muchas de las leyes y de lo que existe desconoce o ha desconocido durante muchos años ese papel tan importante que las mujeres hemos jugado, ¿no? En ese sentido, tener una mirada territorial de las realidades históricas, de las necesidades vividas por las mujeres campesinas, pues es muy importante, ¿no? No solamente las mujeres campesinas, sino las mujeres indígenas y las mujeres afros que también hacen parte de nuestro territorio. Nosotras acá en nuestras comunidades no solamente vemos comunidades campesinas, y bueno, buscamos cómo esas miradas territoriales nos permiten tener pues una mayor conexión con nuestro territorio hacia la búsqueda de despatriarcalizar esas tradiciones agroculturales que durante muchos años pues han incidido sobre nuestros cuerpos, sobre nuestros territorios. En eso tenemos una necesidad muy fuerte y es la necesidad por la tierra. Solo por poner un ejemplo, el 26% de las mujeres en nuestro territorio tienen títulos o predios a nombre de ellas, ¿no? La tierra está en manos pues, de los hombres, y esto significa pues una desigualdad pues muy grande, ¿no? Hacia las mujeres. Entonces, también tenemos grandes desafíos diariamente, y es la lucha por la redistribución de la tierra, pero también además por la redistribución de la triple carga que tenemos las mujeres, ¿no? Entonces es en todos los sentidos como nosotras como organizaciones de mujeres luchamos día a día para que estos aspectos que están incidiendo sobre la vida de las mujeres y sobre la calidad y tener vida digna, pues se puedan ir superando. Pero también hay que decir que estas situaciones pues no se dan porque sí, ¿no? Sino que tienen un sentido de ser, y es también pues el patriarcado que se encuentra arraigado en nuestra sociedad, la concentración de la tierra en manos de unos pocos, las políticas que siempre han estado a favor pues de las élites, el extractivismo que afecta a nuestros territorios y que genera desplazamiento, el conflicto armado que ha utilizado los cuerpos de las mujeres como botín de guerra, la falta de una reforma agraria integral que tenga en cuenta a las mujeres, ¿no? En este caso haya una distribución de la tierra para que las mujeres campesinas podamos tener una mejor calidad de vida, podamos mejorar nuestros ingresos, podamos tener soberanía alimentaria, podamos mejorar nuestras condiciones en el tema de la salud, porque en este momento existen muchos problemas de salud en las mujeres que se deben a la mala calidad de la alimentación, ¿no? No tenemos alimentos propios y todo lo que consumimos viene de afuera. Entonces estamos en esa búsqueda por tener pues una mejor soberanía alimentaria, pero no hay soberanía alimentaria si no tenemos tierra, si no tenemos acceso a la tierra, si no tenemos tierra además pues también con títulos a nombre de las mujeres. Bueno, ¿qué estamos haciendo las mujeres en nuestro territorio? Las mujeres que estamos organizadas, ¿no? Las mujeres estamos y nos hemos puesto en la tarea de construir planes de vida, y en ese marco tenemos una apuesta muy importante que se ha venido gestando desde hace muchos años, pero más concretamente desde hace 3 años. Las mujeres hemos decidido dar una lucha por la tierra. Y en las imágenes pues que se les está mostrando, pueden ver cómo las mujeres hemos creado diferentes estrategias para acceder a esta lucha por la tierra, que es acá una necesidad muy importante para tener una mejor calidad de vida. Y esa lucha por la tierra se viene dando a través de varias estrategias. Una primera estrategia es la movilización. Para nosotros la movilización es un elemento de acción concreto que nos permite visibilizar, exigir nuestros derechos. Que el Estado colombiano tenga en cuenta que en los territorios habemos mujeres que estamos organizadas, que tenemos propuestas, que le apostamos a la construcción de paz, que venimos haciendo muchas cosas, que producimos alimentos, que cuidamos las semillas, que cuidamos el agua, que cuidamos los bienes comunes. Entonces la movilización para nosotras es uno de nuestras estrategias importantes para incidir en el Estado colombiano. Otra de nuestras estrategias de lucha para el acceso a la tierra para las mujeres, pues ha sido la acción concreta de la recuperación de tierra y la recuperación de la tierra en manos de las multinacionales que tienen acaparada la tierra, las mejores tierras acá en nuestro departamento. Entonces podemos ver unas imágenes donde las mujeres están exigiendo la entrega de estas tierras, pero también están denunciando cómo estas multinacionales han afectado la vida de las mujeres, no solamente por el hecho en sí de tener la tierra, sino por el hecho, por todo lo que contaminan, por todo el daño que hacen al medio ambiente, porque son monocultivos, porque están dañando el suelo, están secando las aguas, porque además están incidiendo en nuestras comunidades, cambiando nuestras culturas, nuestra identidad. Entonces tenemos un ejercicio muy concreto de recuperación de tierras a una multinacional, anteriormente llamada Smurfit Capa Cartón de Colombia, ahora Smurfit Weldon, la cual tiene acá en nuestro departamento más de 13,000 hectáreas y son las mejores tierras que hay, mientras que las mujeres tienen entre una, 2 hectáreas, las cuales pues no alcanza para poder sobrevivir o poder suplir pues esas necesidades básicas que se requieren para tener pues una calidad de vida como debería de ser. Entonces, si bien existe esa necesidad, hay una necesidad imperante, ¿sí? Vale. Vale, con gusto. Bueno, mencionaba que si bien existe una necesidad imperante de enfrentar los impactos de este modelo extractivista, de este modelo de acaparamiento de tierras neoliberal que nos ha despojado de nuestros territorios, pues también tenemos o existe la necesidad de proponer caminos basados en la construcción de alternativas propias, basados en nuestros saberes, caminos basados en nuestras luchas y nuestras autonomías. Eso es muy importante, que nosotras como mujeres mantengamos nuestra autonomía, nuestro pensamiento crítico, la unidad, la solidaridad. Que nosotras como mujeres construyamos ejercicios de planificación propios y acción colectiva sustentadas en el derecho a decidir. Que nosotras podamos decidir qué producimos, quién produce, para quién produce y cómo se produce, ¿no? Eso es muy importante. Y también reafirmar el compromiso por mantener, por defender y por impulsar la organización de mujeres. La organización de mujeres porque somos las mujeres las que permanecemos mucho más tiempo en el territorio, las mujeres que cuidamos y defendemos las semillas, las mujeres que estamos forjando la economía propia, la agroecología, ¿no? Son elementos muy importantes para nosotras como mujeres campesinas y que hemos pues venido impulsando acá en nuestro territorio, construyendo pues caminos propios desde nuestras propias capacidades y desde nuestra propia autogestión, ¿no? Porque también decir que pues que todos estos procesos son procesos de autogestión con esfuerzos propios de las mujeres. Entonces, para eso, pues las mujeres nos hemos organizado, nos hemos formado, hemos hecho o hacemos movilización, hacemos incidencia, ¿no? Estamos produciendo y son pues todos estos elementos la base para que las mujeres podamos empezar a ser autorreconocidas y reconocidas en nuestro territorio. Por último, quisiera dejar sobre el espacio que para nosotras es muy importante visibilizar y tener el respaldo de la lucha por la tierra que venimos dando las mujeres acá en nuestro territorio. Es muy importante ya que esto nos permite la permanencia, la defensa del territorio y de los bienes comunes de la naturaleza para mejorar nuestra calidad de vida. Muchas
Gracias,
gracias.
Yuri, gracias, muchas gracias. Y creo que vamos a, gracias por mencionar el asunto de la tierra para las mujeres, también el título de la tierra, porque eso es una lucha en Asia también, yo sé muy bien. Entonces, creo que vamos a pasar a la próxima ponenta, Donna.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think we are starting to see a trend, as you can see with all of our speakers now and the various issues they are sharing. And we'll hear from one more speaker from the Philippines, Kathy. But before I introduce Kathy, just a reminder for our speakers to speak slowly. Our interpreters are having some issues either dropping from the call or catching up with interpretation. So please try to slow down a bit. But our next speaker just completed a very, very busy election campaign period. She was one of the nominees for the Gabriela Women's Party list during this recent Philippine midterm elections. Kathy Estevillo, also known as Nanay Kathy, Nanay means mother in Filipino, is a staunch defender of peasant issues as the Secretary General of the National Federation of Peasant Women, also known as Amihan, which is a member organization of IWA. He's also the spokesperson for Bantay Bigas, the People's Alliance for Equitable, Safe, and Affordable Rice. She was born into a peasant family, so Nanay Kathy knows all too well the hardships and struggles of peasants in the rural communities of the Philippines. Please welcome Nanay Kathy.
Thank you so much, Donna. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Here in the Philippines, it's good evening. Thank you very much for that very good introduction. I have a
Okay.
PowerPoint for
Nanay
us.
Kathy, we're going to pause 1 second. We have to switch interpreters. 1 moment.
Oh, thank
Sorry.
you.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Can I share the PowerPoint? Okay, next slides, please. Okay, to begin with, here in the Philippines, we are experiencing so much hunger despite being an agricultural country. And this hunger that we are facing for decades is a result of the neoliberal policies imposed by WTO. So to begin with, the Philippine rural women face conditions of landlessness, food insecurity, and marginalization in the economic, political, and social spheres. These are the defining characteristics of the rural sector, endured by both men and women, including the youth, tied to the persisting socioeconomic context of a semi-feudal and semi-colonial Philippines. Next slides, please. So the outline of my sharing would be who is the Philippine peasant women, next, Philippine condition under semi-feudal, semi-colonial, and also the impacts of imperialism in our everyday life, and of course, what Amihan is doing. Next slides, please. Okay, who is the Philippines peasant women? The Philippine peasant women forms half of the democratic majority social sector of the Philippines. They are women farmers, agricultural workers, fisher folks, indigenous people, and semi-proletariat engaged in both farm work and precarious wage work. Their experience of exploitation is thus multifaceted in the Philippines. This can be understood through looking at the political economy of the Philippines, which is semi-feudal and semi-colonial, that shapes and informs the political, economic, cultural, and social conditions of the widest social sector, the peasantry. Peasantry make up of 75% of the whole population of the Philippines. Next slides, please. So the Philippine condition under semi-feudal and semi-colonial. Under semi-feudal, the semi-feudal characteristics of the Philippine agriculture explains the feudal relationship between landlords and farmers in the country. This means large agricultural land areas continue to be concentrated in the hands of the private landlords, leaving the farmers and peasants with insufficient or no land to till of their own. Peasant women are further marginalized and exploited by the unequal access to political opportunities such as owning land, political participation, and household decision-making compared to men, as they are categorically limited to social productive duties. Under semi-colonial, with the backward and underdeveloped agriculture, the Philippines has no productive, modern, and fundamental national industry. With landlord opposition to genuine agrarian reform, the existing mechanized agriculture production sites in the country are those owned by foreign corporations for export-bound products. These private corporations became the country's top capitalist employers that exploit farmers.
Kathy, can you slow down a little bit, please?
Okay.
Maybe take a pause for a little bit so our interpreters can.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. With the backward and underdeveloped agriculture, the Philippines has no productive, modern, and fundamental national industry. With landlord opposition to genuine agrarian reform, the existing mechanized agricultural production sites in the country are those owned by foreign corporations for export-bound products. These private corporations became the country's top capitalist employers that exploit farmers turned laborers who are not only seasonally employed, they are also overworked and underpaid. One major issue threatening domestic economy and industry now is the 99-year land lease for foreign investor over the country's lands. There was this position of the Congress wherein under House Bill 55 House Bill 10755, of which they have already in the third reading that a proposed bill that lease for foreign investors could reach up to 99 years. So we don't want to be a squatter in our country. So we have to fight back that bill. Next slide, please. So with a subservient government to U.S. interests, imperialism is easily manifest in the country's politics, economic, and culture, especially in the experience of peasant women. Most rural women who are farmers, fisher folks, and workers themselves experience exploitation in the hands of landlords, private corporations based in the Philippines who force the rural poor to sell their all for meager compensation due to the lack of job opportunities. With worsening economic conditions, year after year is the proportional increase in outbound cheap migrant labor, mostly composed of rural women, who seek for overseas employment as domestic helpers, cleaners, and factory workers, which usually entail precarious work conditions and gender race-based violence. So here are the OFW lining up in the airport, while here on the other side is how rural women they call this plow or prepare for gardening for their in their community. Next slides, please. Imperialist aggression outside of the stunted rural economy and the political adoption of the U.S. brand of democracy after its so-called independence, the Philippines is witness to continued proliferation of U.S. military bases in the country as a strong indication of the U.S. continued control of the country. Right now, there are 9 EDCA sites or Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the U.S. So in these sites, 9 sites, mostly located in the rural area, whenever there are exercises between U.S. and the military, the economic activity of the farmers, including the fisher folks, have to stop. It has to be stopped because they are bombing, firing with their what do you call this? Their exercises included firing. So peasant women directly suffer the impact of military exercises and militarization in general. Aside from the destruction of the environment where they source their livelihood, there are also the social costs of exercises such as extreme poverty, prostitution, rape, and murder, as in the case of Jennifer Laude. That was during the Duterte regime. Next slides, please.
Pinoy.
Red tagging and state counterinsurgency. Despite organizing and mobilizing within their democratic rights, the organized masses, especially women, are oppressed and targeted by state by fear-mongering, red tagging, and terrorist tagging. In 2019, under former President Duterte, the Executive Order 70 institutionalized the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. And in 2020, the Anti-Terror Act was signed into law. These legal mechanisms have been used to red tag activists and actively erase the lines between legal mass movements and the underground arms movements. These red tagging expressed since 2019 have led to various forms of repressions such as vilification and arrest, to even freeze orders of organizations' bank accounts, such as what had done to Amihan. So our bank account was frozen in 2021 until 2022. So we cannot receive donations or any form of support from any funding agencies. Next slides, please. Amihan has been critical and consistent in exposing the anti-people and anti-peasant policies of the government. Because of our stance on various issues, Amihan have been red tagged to silence peasant women. The government weaponized the law and uses it against the common people. That one, in 2021, our two bank accounts was being frozen. So after that, we were having, despite being lifted by the Court of Appeal, the Anti-Money Laundering Council still pushed with the case against us. The case has not been finished. No, I just finished my defense last week. So during that defense preparations for my defense, I was really, I experienced severe I experienced severe anxiety. That whenever I go to campaigns for this national election, at the back of my mind, I think of the case I'm going to I think of the hearing that is being scheduled before the election. Next slides, please. So because of that, peasant women fight back. But in spite of such gross conditions of state neglect imposed rural women underdevelopment, the dominance of macho feudalism from everyday to national level politics and state-funded red tagging and attacks Philippine rural women rise. Women in the countryside grow increasingly conscious of their conditions and direct experience of feudal political economic exploitation, which opens them up to active self-organization and mobilization. Next slides, please. So these are our forms of organization, discussions. We have this also fisher folks. We organize fisher folks against reclamations, no? And also bagsakan, or the bagsakan, we call it bagsakan farmers, the collective farming, and where peasant women bring their produce in the city and sell their organically produced from their collective farm. Next slides, please. So for organized militant rural women, the struggle for women's liberation from sex-based exploitation is extricably linked to the political economic liberation of the peasants from feudal exploitation, and this will only manifest when the Philippines finally has genuine land and agrarian reform, rural development, national industrialization, and genuine national democracy. a movement that will surely place women in active forefront roles to realize collective deals. Next slides, please. So these are our calls. Fight for genuine agrarian reform, oppose neoliberal policies in the Philippine agriculture, stop militarization in the countryside, defend peasant women, oppose balikatan exercises in the Philippines, and down with imperialism. We call on rural women, build strong rural women's movement to fight for genuine land reform and food sovereignty. Rural women's unite and fight imperialists down with U.S. imperialism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That was very inspiring to hear, and I think your calls to action can succinctly sum up, I think, what we need to do as an international community to support the struggles of peasant women around the world. Thank you again to all of our speakers. Unfortunately, we are way over time, so we'd like to go ahead and move towards closing the program. But before we do that, if you do have questions for any of our speakers, you can email us and maybe we'll place it in the chat. Email International Women's Alliance at gmail.com and type out your questions there. And we will make sure that we send the questions to the appropriate panelist. So it can go to all of them or it can go to one of them. Just please make sure you indicate that in your message. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Marie to say some closing words, and then I will synthesize a bit some of the main points that were shared on our panel discussion today. So Marie?
Gracias, Donna. Esperamos poder llevarnos estas historias con nosotros en nuestra propia organización o relacionarlas con nuestras propias experiencias y seguir elevando las luchas de las mujeres rurales y su lucha por la tierra y el sustento. Es justo que las mismas mujeres que garantizan que la gente del mundo tenga alimentos para comer a través de su duro trabajo en los campos, también merezcan el derecho a acceder a los alimentos para ellas, sus familias y sus comunidades. Gracias al increíble trabajo de estas mujeres y de sus organizaciones y redes, seguimos construyendo el tipo del mundo que queremos, no solo para las mujeres, sino para todas las personas en América Latina, en Asia Pacífico y en todas partes. Gracias.
Thank you, Marie. I think Marie did a great job of summarizing the points, so I'll just go ahead and forego that for now. But I do want to share our deep, deep appreciation to all of our volunteers, especially the interpreters and our tech team, who was working very, very hard behind the scenes amidst all of the different, challenges that we were running into with sound and connection. And so we apologize for our participants if it affected your quality of participation. But we also want to make sure that we thank our speakers as well for preparing and sharing your stories. We hope that you all find their experiences and their long-standing struggles to continue the fight inspiring, so that we can all rise up together in solidarity. If you're interested in joining any of their fights and want to show your solidarity, just please reach out to us and we can get you connected. If you are part of an organization and not yet a member of IWA, also contact us. We will have a meeting coming up at the end of this month on May 31, our all leaders meeting. And so you all are invited. You don't have to be a member. We can share a link in the chat to our Instagram post that shows the details of how you can join the all leaders meeting on May 31. We'll have 2 different time zones and you can select the one that works best for you. One final thing before we go, we usually like to take a group photo. So if you feel comfortable, if you can turn your cameras on so we can see your faces, you have the option to participate in this group photo, and then we will close out. So if we could, have everyone turn their cameras on. And if you'd like to raise your left fist to show that we are in solidarity with all peasant women around the world. Thank you all again so much for joining us. Could we have one of our Secretariat members support in snapping the screenshots?
Yeah, we have someone assigned.
Great. Thank you all for your participation. Long live international solidarity. Defend peasant women. Continue the fight for land, for their livelihood, and for all their sacrifice. And long live all of our martyrs.
Long live.
Long live.
Viva la
Mabuhay.
solidaridad internacional. Mabuhay.
Mabuhay. And sorry for my, I'm lacking sleep, but also very agitated and inspired. So thank you all so much.